Police dashcam video has now been released of the controversial shooting of a suspect by a Bryan police officer back in May.
Witnesses of that shooting were shocked after what they saw and over the fact that the officer would not be punished. Now, for the first time, you can see some of what witnesses saw.
News 3's Michael Loder has part 1 of his investigation.
5 months ago, the lives of 2 families were changed forever. In an instant, the worlds of Officer William Cross and Johnny Harris Jr. were turned upside down. What was a routine police stop turned into a months-long investigation. 2 men shot, an officer resigned, and a community left in the ripples of gunshots, trying to understand why.
But I kept begging him to get in the car, and he tried to get in the car, and he pulled his gun, and he shot him.
Janice Walton saw what no mother should.
There's not a day go by that I don't think about it.
What is that over?
A police officer shooting her son in the middle of the street.
Every time I cross the railroad track, I have flashbacks.
It was that May day when Officer Cross responded to the report of a suspicious person. Cross found Johnny Harris at the intersection of MLK and Main. In newly released dashcam video obtained by News 3, you see 2 views that show part of how the events unfolded in shocking detail.
You live everywhere.
You can see he never once reached for his weapon.
Bryan police disagree. Officer Cross said repeatedly that Johnny Harris reached for his weapon. The video is inconclusive.
I'll shoot you.
Sound like you say I'm gonna shoot you.
Officer Cross pulls what looks to be a taser and fires at Johnny as he runs away.
Get in the car, Doug. Get in the car, Doug. Stop running. Shut up and shoot him, Doug. What is that over?
We showed the video to Johnny's mother and grandmother. Both were feet away when Officer Cross pulled his pistol and opened fire. In fact, you can clearly see the family get out of their car in the rear camera.
How does this match up with what you remember that day?
Exactly like it had, exactly the same thing is in my mind.
He couldn't have been more than a few feet away from you in that driver's side when he started firing.
That's right. He was right there.
What went through your mind?
They was going to kill him, and he was going to kill him.
Johnny and a nearby construction worker were both shot. That's what you don't see in the dashcam video. But what you do see has community leaders upset.
I understand law officers have to do what they have to do. Their life is endangered every day. But I just believe that Officer Cross he went just too far.
Officer Cross resigned from the Bryan Police Department before any disciplinary action was taken.
I don't know what the grand jury was thinking, and I'm praying they saw this video. But if they saw this video and they failed to indict Officer Cross, then something's wrong with them.
I mean, it's troubling because you've got, what, 7 shots fired?
Veteran prosecutor Shane Phelps worked in the Brazos County District Attorney's Office for 10 years. He's seen cases like this go to grand juries before.
I would look at that video very carefully and I would compare it with what I was being told and see if there are any inconsistencies. If there are, then you just have to figure out, what does that tell us? Does it get us to the point where we think somebody has done something wrong? Then we have to ask ourselves the question, would that even constitute a crime?
Do you think Officer Cross was wrong?
Yes, I do. Because it didn't take him to shoot him to get him, to arrest him, or to talk to him. It didn't take him to shoot him.
Now, we tried to contact Officer William Cross for his reaction to the dashcam video. So far, our calls have not been returned. Well, it's police dashcam video that's somewhat startling. News 3 obtained the video from May when 2 people were shot by a veteran Bryan police officer.
Officer William Cross was not indicted, but resigned before Bryan police could formally reprimand him. Tonight, News 3's Michael Loder shows us what happened.
I'll shoot you.
This is Officer William Cross on May 6th, warning Johnny Harris Jr. His hand on his waist. When Harris runs, he pulls what looks like a taser. Just moments later, Officer Cross is drawing his gun and firing. This dramatic video allows us to see what Johnny's mother and grandmother saw with their own eyes as they happened to pull onto the scene.
Janice said, "Don't shoot my child."
The officer was wrong. He had no right to shoot him. and that Johnny never bothered anybody. He was friendly.
Johnny and a nearby construction worker were shot. Both survived, but the shooting resonated in the community.
I think sometimes you got to make a better judgment, and I know his training didn't kick in, but if his training would have kicked in, more than likely he wouldn't have shot him.
On May 6th, the Bryan Police Department released this statement early in the investigation.
During that foot pursuit, there was a struggle and shots were fired. The suspect was struck at least once by a firearm round, and an uninvolved third party was also struck, either by a ricochet or another round.
But in this dash cam video obtained by News 3, the events don't necessarily unfold in the same order. You see a struggle, and then a chase, and then shots fired. But whether Harris went for Cross's gun or not, you just can't tell in this video.
Well, the general rule is that an officer shouldn't draw his or her weapon unless he or she is prepared to use it. In those circumstances, the thing that matters is how much of a threat you pose.
Philip Lyons teaches police behavior at Sam Houston State University. His years as an officer and detective with the city of Alvin give him an insight into both how officers are trained and how they should react.
So for me, I think the video simply raises more questions than it answers. I certainly saw nothing in the video that would strike me as clearly inappropriate. The few things I saw that I can make a judgment about based on my observations alone, it seemed to me as though the officer was doing the right things. He was approaching the man in the right way.
What's going on today?
And once the shooting took place, had the presence of mind to call for immediate medical assistance and attend to the man's injuries.
Get me a medic.
What was going on in the officer's head that prompted the use of force, I don't know.
So we showed this video to former Brazos County prosecutor Shane Phelps. The video clearly startles him.
I mean, it's troubling because you've got, what, 7 shots fired? But based on just that video, I certainly, as a prosecutor, would not feel comfortable saying somebody has done something wrong without, as I would think the grand jury would do, talking to the police officers, talking to the crime scene folks, talking to medical personnel to find out, you know, if there were wounds, and I know there were, where did those wounds occur? You've got video evidence here. Everything has to come together.
In his 10 years with the DA, Phelps will tell you that no case is 100%, even with troubling video.
The worst thing that you can do in a situation like this is not do what you're told, struggle at all, or fail to comply. You know, we fight these battles in court. We don't do them out in the streets. People get hurt.
In fact, a Brazos County grand jury did hear this case. Cross was no billed. He would later resign from Bryan PD before he could receive his formal reprimand. Even though Officer Cross was not indicted and resigned from the Bryan Police Department, this case is far from closed. In fact, the district attorney's office can present the case, and a new grand jury can call for the case and witnesses again. In downtown Bryan, Michael Oder, News 3.
Now, we tried to contact Officer William Cross for a comment. So far, our messages have gone unanswered.
Cross did write a letter of thanks to the Texas Municipal Police Association for their help during the Bryan Police internal investigation. The TMPA provides legal support and representation to officers. In that letter, Cross writes, I guess that if you look at the win-lose column, it might appear that the city won the battle, but the Cross household won the war. We have this letter plus the raw dash cam video posted with this story on our web channel, kbtx.com.